MSMB founded Retrophin.
Yeah, we did.
And Vivek, who I just interviewed, was your biggest investor. And he put in like $60 million?
He did. He was great, yeah.
Okay, was that the most money you've ever had invested in your companies at that point?
Yeah, so we went public. And I'll tell you a funny story about Vivek, which is really interesting and shows you his character, my character, and the whole sort of situation. So we started as a private company like all companies do. And Vivek didn't join us as an investor until we went public because he had worked at a hedge fund. So for him, they don't really invest in private companies. So we had a couple of investors, random people, and then we went public and he started investing and it was great. But the day came for, we did this uplisting. It was kind of like a re-IPO basically. We were going to IPO on Nasdaq and this was a hot deal. We were trying to raise 40 million and we had demand for 300 because people heard my spiel, they liked it. And Vivek called me up and he said, Martin, I put in, as you can see, I think he put in for 15 million. He said, yeah, Vivek, look, you put in for 15 million, but so-and-so put in for 20, so-and-so put in for 50. This firm put in for 3. I owe them a favor. Of this 300 million, someone's got to get left out. In fact, everyone's going to get left out. And I got to decide who to invest. He said, Martin, listen to me very carefully. I want every dollar I asked for. I said, Vivek, I don't know if I could do that. And he said, I bet on you when nobody else would. Now it's your turn to return the favor. And I said, you know what? You're right. I hung up and I said, you're getting every dollar. And everyone on Wall Street called me and said, what the F, et cetera. Because when you're in a hot IPO, I think our IPO was at 8 and it immediately traded at like 11 or something. So it was like kind of like free money. So if you could get 50,000 shares or 100,000 shares, you could make quick buck for free.
Yeah.
And all these funds knew that. But Vivek is like, no, I'm going to buy your stock and hold it. And he did. And, he believed in me. But the thing about Vivek is he invested in hundreds of drug companies, right? So it's not like, we were, best friends. I mean, he had lots of investments. We were friends, but he had tons and tons of investments. And what's interesting is what we did at Retrophin, he kind of was either doing at the same time, depending on how you look at it, or right after or right before, pretty much the same business model. And it wasn't like directly competitive, but basically we both realized that these big drug companies like Pfizer and Merck and J&J and so forth, Eli Lilly, they had these monstrous companies where the research divisions would come up with great ideas, potentially new drugs for cancer or whatever, and they would stop working on them for other reasons. So like the CEO would be like, well, we don't want to make any more pain drugs because we just don't like pain. And the researcher would be like, it's still a problem. And they'd be like, sorry, man, your experiments are done. And there was one company, Bristol Myers, huge drug company, they had a heart drug. And they said, it's over. We're not going to do the heart drug anymore. We're going to do cancer drugs. But this is a perfectly good heart drug. And it was for hypertension. And we bought it for $2 million. They put $100 million in it. And it was perfectly fine. It was promising. Why they were abandoning it wasn't a terrible reason. But guys like Vivek and I figured out that, well, if we can put this drug for like a very specific form of this disease or something like that, we could really make a fortune. And I'll tell you a funny story. Vivek just bought, I'm out of the drug industry, but Vivek bought a set of drugs from Pfizer relatively recently for 100 mil, right? And Pfizer kept a piece of the company too. But most of the company was his, 100 mil. He sold it for $6 billion just 2 years later.
Wow.
Isn't that nuts?
That's
Pfizer
crazy.
didn't want those drugs anymore. But another company did.
Wow.
So he kind of said, here you go.
Okay, so Retrophin goes public. How much did you make off that IPO?
Well, I didn't sell in the IPO, right? So like it was
on paper.
The price went up, because it was weird because we were already public on like this crap stock market and we went to the Nasdaq. And I mean, it was great. I mean, I it was in the 50, 60 million range and we had been doing fantastic. A lot of people told me it was their favorite stock in their portfolio. These are the big hedge funds and mutual funds. And they said, you're doing fantastic. And our stock went from, when we first went public, it was 3, went all the way up to like 25 or 28.
Wow.
And it kind of settled, in the teens. And then I got fired.